All right, so we are recording now. Again, good morning. My name is Raquel Ramirez, and today we're going to take some time to go through the SUNY-JCC dualenroll.com system. And the system is used by SUNY-JCC to help facilitate high school students registering for college credit classes through SUNY-JCC's College Connections program. So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through the student part of that process, so what the student will have to do, what they will see, what their experience is using that system, and then what the high school staff experience or process is using the system. So we'll look at both of those interfaces, if you will, the student interface and then the high school staff person's interface as well. We are on our Stage site, so if you were to look at the web address at the top of my screen right now, you'll see that it says sunyjcc.stage.dualenroll.com. So you are never going to use that URL. That URL is kind of for us to do training sessions on. It is a test website, so the data actually never goes anywhere. It doesn't actually go to SUNY-JCC for enrollment. And that's great because in a training session like today, I can make up a fake student named Angelina Jolie and not actually register her in Jade's program. But our Stage site is pretty much an exact copy of the production site. I say pretty much, it is a test site. So I would say, 98% of it is going to be identical to what you will see on the live site and to what your students will see on the live site. So that's why we're using our Stage site. But you will not use that URL when you are using the site in real time. The URL for the live production site that both you and your students will use does not have that Stage word in it. It's just sunyjcc.dualenroll.com. So it does not have that Stage word. It's just sunyjcc.dualenroll.com. You don't have to write that down. It will obviously be on the video. I believe there are some handouts that SUNY-JCC might be able to give you that has that information on there. Certainly when I email you at the high school your login credentials, so your username and your password to get onto the system, I always include that website as well. So you'll certainly have access to that website, but the correct website for the production, the live site, is sunyjcc.dualenroll.com. And since we're talking about that, that's kind of how this process gets started. The student is actually the one who gets the ball rolling by going to that correct website, sunyjcc.dualenroll.com, and either logging in with an existing account. So maybe they're a senior and they did this last year when they were a junior, so they would just go ahead and enter in their login name or their username and then their password and get going. Or if it's a brand new student, they would go ahead and create an account. So on this login screen, you'll see it says, please log in. If you need a login, click here to create one. And this is the link that a brand new student would click on to create their dualenroll.com account. Before I jump into that experience, a couple of other kind of tips and tricks about using dualenroll.com. We are browser agnostic. So what that means is the student, a staff person, you can use any web browser that you would like to access the system. You could use Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, it's your choice. And basically, if you can get to the internet, you can get to our website. So that means you can also access it from a variety of devices, right? Your smartphone, an iPad, a tablet, a desktop, a laptop, etc. Like I said, basically, if you can get to the internet, you can get to the system. So the student, again, will kind of start this process by going to the correct website for SUNY-JCC, and then either logging in or creating an account if they don't have one. So that's what this page looks like. If you were to go to that URL, it would look like this. And a couple of things on the login screen that I just want to bring to your attention. There is this big red help desk button up here in the upper right corner of the screen. That guy is ever present. He is there for students. He is there for parents. He is there for the high school staff. He's even there for the college staff. Jade and her team have access to that help desk button. And we will talk about that towards the end of the training, like what does it look like to submit a help desk request or a ticket to our help desk. The other things that you'll notice on the login screen is there are two links down here below the login button. The first one is the forgot your username or password link. So this is definitely utilized by students who, again, maybe created an account last year or last semester, but they don't remember what username or password they had for that account. The system will reset it for them if they can provide us with the cell phone or the email address that they originally used when they created their account. So that's what we will ask them for, and then we will send them like account reset link to that either cell phone or that email address. The other link at the bottom is the need to enter your text confirmation code. So this is specifically used for students who are creating a brand new account. A student not only has to create the account, but they actually have to activate or confirm it. So that account will not work until they activate or confirm that brand new account. And they do that a couple of ways. As a part of the account creation process, they have to give us either a cell phone number or an email address. And depending on which one they gave us, we will send them either a text confirmation code, if they gave us a cell phone, or an email with a confirmation link, a link that they will click to activate or confirm their account. So this link down here is for those students who gave us a cell phone and it says, do you need to enter your text code? We will send them a text message with a code. They will click on that link, they will enter in their cell phone, and they will enter in the confirmation code that we just sent them via text message. And that's how they will confirm their account. So those are what those two kind of hyperlinks beneath the login button are used for. But we're going to start off by pretending that we've got a brand new student who has never created a dualenroll.com account, never registered for SUNY JCC classes through dualenroll.com before. And so they're going to go ahead and click on this link to create their account. So when they do that, they are brought to our account creation page, essentially. And this is pretty standard if a student has created an account for anything, right? Like an iTunes account, a Yahoo account, a Spotify account. The student has to provide some basic information for that account to be created. For us, anything with a red asterisk, that little red asterisk denotes that it is a required field for their account to be created. And so the student is going to start by selecting their home high school, the high school that they attend, from the drop-down menu. And the schools that are listed here come from SUNY JCC. So they tell us which high schools they're working for or working with, and we go ahead and add that to the drop-down list for students to choose from. For the sake of today's walkthrough, I'm going to pretend that my test student is from Olean Senior High School. So they select their school. They go ahead and create their own login. So Wilt is going to be our test student today. They create their own password. They give us their first name, their last name, their date of birth. They want to select the year of their birth first. So 2001, let's say March 22. And then here is where they provide us with their preferred method of contact. And they have to give us at least one of these, right? An email or a cell phone. Again, this is how we will be communicating with them throughout the process. We send emails or short text messages that tell them what's going on with their registration. I mean, especially the congratulations, you've been enrolled in the class. And that note kind of comes after everybody has given their permission and all of the steps of the workflow, all the requirements of enrolling have been met. But it's also used to confirm their account. So we certainly need one of these pieces of information. You'll notice that the red asterisk is on the cell phone field. I'm going to use email simply because I can show you emails on my screen. I can't show you my cell phone, so let's do that. And then I'm going to click this. I prefer not to provide a cell phone. And if I click that box, the little red asterisk moves up to the top here. So I have met the requirement. I have given you one of these two things. 99% of students give us their cell phone. I feel like they prefer text message as a mode of communication as opposed to email. They certainly can give us both, but one is required. So our test student, Wilt, has gone ahead and created or started the creation of an account. He's given us all the information that we need. All the required fields are filled in. He's going to check that I am not a robot. And he's going to click register. So he is registering for an account, a dualenroll.com account. He is not registering for a class. We haven't even seen classes yet, right? So this is registering for a dualenroll.com account. And with that account is how he will go about registering for classes. So he clicks register, and he gets a little note now on the screen that says, you have signed up successfully. Please check your email for instructions on how to confirm. So Wilt got this because he gave us an email for his preferred method of contact. If he had given us a cell phone, the message would say, please enter your text confirmation code that we would have texted to that particular cell phone. So I'm going to bump over to our test inbox and maybe refresh it here. And a couple of things about using email. So the first email that our system sends is an automated email, right? So it's not coming from a real person. It says it's coming from like noreply@dualenroll.com. So sometimes students will say, I never got the confirmation email. And what we want to tell them is, can you please check your junk or your spam folder? Because sometimes that first email winds up in junk or spam simply because it is an auto-generated email. If they find it there and they simply mark it as not junk or not spam, from there on out, everything moves very, very smoothly. And then the other thing with emails is sometimes if a student uses a school-issued email, so perhaps all of the students at your high school have an email address issued to them. So it could be wiltboser@oleanhighschool.org. You'll want to talk to your high school or your district IT department, because usually those email systems through the high school can have some pretty solid firewalls, and they can block emails coming from dualenroll.com thinking, again, that they are junk or that they are spam. So you'll want to make sure that your IT department or your district IT department realizes that you will be encouraging students to use their school-issued email address for their account, and that you need emails coming from the domain @dualenroll.com to be marked as safe, right? That those will be coming through. For our test student, Wilt, he got the email, no problems. It didn't wind up in his junk folder. It says, welcome, Wilt. Please confirm your account by using the link below. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on that link. And it automatically logs our student in. You can see his name is up here, Wilt Boser, so there he is. And it automatically logs him in and kind of takes him to the first parts of the registration process for the student. What we call these screens are the pre-registration screens. So you'll see there are 4 steps. We are on step 1. It's right here along the top, but you'll see there are 4 of them. And these are the 4 pre-registration requirements that the student has to complete. We call them pre-registration because it's exactly what they are, right? They have to be completed prior to registering for classes, pre-registration. The other thing to realize about pre-registration steps is they're kind of a once and done sort of a deal. So the only reason Wilt, our test student, is getting this is because this is a brand new account. He's only going to have to fill out these 4 pre-registration screens one time. After he has done that, the next time he logs in, he will not see these screens. We just collect the information at the first time account creation kind of spot, if you will. You'll also notice that the student interface has 3 tabs along the top. There's a profile tab, a courses tab, and a status tab, and we'll look at those in just a moment. But we're going to go ahead and get Wilt through those pre-registration steps that he has to do one time, simply because it is a brand new account. Again, anything marked with a red asterisk means that it is a required field. So this is information that SUNY JCC requires as part of the process to becoming enrolled in their College Connections program and taking courses. The system has also rolled over any information that students already given us. So we already know his first and last name, his email address, and his date of birth. He gave us all of that when he created his account. So we've already dropped that information in onto this like application part. And all he has to do is fill in the missing information. So we're going to go through and fill in an address for him, a zip code, county of residence. So there is a drop-down menu. Again, SUNY JCC communicates which county should be here. So we'll go with Allegheny. The student has to provide a social security number or a J number. The J number is the student ID number issued by SUNY JCC. So if the student has taken classes with SUNY JCC before, or perhaps like a placement test with them and was issued a J number, the student can certainly enter that number in, or they can give us a social security, but they must have one or the other. So we'll go ahead with a social. They're going to give us a phone number and a graduation year, so 2019, and just answer in the questions that have that little red asterisk. If the student tries to move forward, leaving one of those required fields blank, so like I haven't answered the race question down here and I try to click next, you'll see a little red error message shows up at the bottom of the screen that says, whoa, 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 you have to answer the race question, or you forgot something, right? So it's great because it doesn't let the student move forward until all of the information is there, or at least has been filled in that SUNY JCC requires. So we'll go ahead and fix that. We'll answer the race question and click next. The second step of pre-reg for a brand new student is going to be to accept the SUNY JCC terms and agreements, expectations, conditions, whatever you'd like to call them. But basically, kind of the list of what they're getting into, right? This is what you are going to be participating when you participate in the College Connections program. And there is a link here to their student guide. So you'll see here's kind of the whole package of what a student is agreeing that they're participating in when they participate in that College Connections program. So the student does have to click this, I have read and agree to these conditions. Again, if they try to click next without checking that little box, the system will not let them. It says you do have to agree to the terms and conditions before you can proceed. So we'll have our test student check that box that says, yep, I agree, and they will click next. The third part of pre-registration is for the student to tell us the best way to contact their parent or guardian. So again, the system communicates with the student and with the parent, kind of tells them what's going on throughout the process. So we need a way to communicate. And SUNY JCC also requires the parent to kind of give their permission or their consent for the student to participate in this program and take classes. So whichever way the student chooses here, the method of contact for their parent, that's how we'll try to secure that permission or that consent. Again, 95% of the time, the easiest way is for us to communicate with that parent via email to get that permission or that consent via email electronically. If email is not available, meaning the parents don't have an email address or don't have access to their email, there is an option for the student to say, I will attach an electronic version of the consent or permission form to my application. So what that means is if the student selects this second option, the students will have the ability to print off kind of like a consent form or permission form and bring that hard copy of the form to their parents, have their parents sign it, and then somehow that physical hard form has to wind up as an electronic version that they attach to their dualenroll.com account. What most students do is they simply snap a picture of it with their cell phones, right? So they'll use their cell phone to snap a picture of the signed form, and then they will upload that picture, that image file, that JPEG file to their account. So we have an image of the signed consent form from their parent. I will show you both. For the sake of moving through this first one pretty quickly, I'm going to go ahead and go with the email consent, but I will show you what it looks like if a student uses the scan and attach option. If the student doesn't snap a picture of it with their phone, sometimes they might bring it to their high school and ask their high school to help either scan it and attach it for them or scan the file for them. But like I said, most students have smartphones and they tend to use that to snap their picture. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in an email address for our parent of Wilt. So he's entering in his dad's email. He's going to click next. And then the last step of the pre-registration screens are going to be for the student to kind of confirm their guidance counselor or the person at the high school who is helping them with this registration process. So you'll see that Olean High School is the high school. They cannot modify that. I can't click in here or delete it. They've already selected that as their high school when they created their account. And so really what they're going to do is tell us which counselor at Olean they are working with. This is if there's more than one counselor at Olean or at that particular high school that is working with students. It in no way limits your way to see students. So let's pretend Olean has two counselors, Counselor Raquel and Counselor Jade. If Wilt says my counselor is Jade, but Jade is out sick and Raquel needs to cover for her, Raquel can still see Jade's students, right? It's not like all of a sudden Raquel has no access to the students that chose Counselor Jade. What this does is it just helps route the students to the correct counselor in their default list. So when Jade logs in, she will see all of the kids on her default list that chose her as the counselor. When Raquel logs in, her default list will show all of the kids that chose her on her list. But there is a view all DE students link that every single counselor can access. And if I were to click that, I can see all of the kids regardless of who their counselor is, if it was Jade or Raquel. And I will show you that when we look at the high school interface. So I don't want anybody to panic that this in any way limits your ability to find a student or to help a student or to see a student. It really is just to try to make the system a little bit more efficient if you have a few people that are working on registration. Again, it's not very interesting on our test site. We don't have names. It's just the Olean High School counselor. So I will select that and I will click finish. And those are the pre-registration steps for our brand new student. Again, they only have to be completed one time. We will not ask the student those same questions again, not next year, not next month, not next week, not even in the next hour. And they only happen on a new account, right? A brand new account. If this was an existing student, those wouldn't even fire off. So now that Wilt has filled in those pre-registration screens, he is on his courses tab. You will see the courses tab is kind of highlighted up here along the top of his toolbar. And this is what we call the course finder. So these are all of the courses that that student, let's say, is able to take. Again, this is our test site, so it might look a little bit different than the live site. We do only show the classes that SUNY JCC has communicated should be seen by that high school. So what I mean by that is the view is restricted by high school. So Wilt said he was an Olean High School student. If SUNY JCC said Olean High School students should only see art, history, and biology, that's it. When Wilt logs in, he will see 3 options and no more, right? If any Olean High School kid logs in, they will see those 3 options and no more. So we do kind of tailor the list based on the high school that the student attends. And again, we get that information directly from SUNY JCC. There are filters along the left side of the screen here. So if a student was looking for a specific class, let's say English, they could type in a keyword and it would sort that list for them. They can, filter by location, by days of the week. We find that most students don't use these filters simply because the list of classes that are open to them is quite manageable. It's only 3, 6, maybe 10 options. It's not page after page after page of classes. Those filters become more helpful if there's just an abundance of classes to choose from. It's a little easier to whittle it down that way. But in our experience, most students have a manageable list. They don't even need to use those filters, but they are there. There are icons too that show you if the class is taught at a high school, if it's an online class. I do believe that we're just looking at the classes that are taught at high schools. So you'll see that little cap all the way down. And to pick a class, the student simply has to click on the title. You'll notice that the title of the courses are hyperlinks, right? They're clickable. So we have art classes, bio classes, etc., all the way down to, I think, some welding classes down here at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and say that our guy, Wilt, would like to take an art class. So we'll go with this drawing 1, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the title. When he does that, he sees any information about that class that SUNY JCC has given us. So we know that it's a 3-credit class. There might be a description right here. Again, we display whatever SUNY JCC told us to. So we can see that this instructor is with Kelly O'Brien. It's at Olean High School. It is a full year course, right? That's the semester. And if the student wants to take the course, all they have to do is click on this register button. There is a save courses button, and I just want a cautionary tale. Sometimes kids click this save course button and they think that they are registering, and that is not what they are doing. You are literally just saving it. It's like saving it in your shopping cart but never actually buying it. And again, that save course button was really meant for kids who have a lot of options. So they might save 5 classes that they're interested in and then talk to their parent or their counselor or even the teachers about which 2 or 3 they should actually register for. And so saved courses is kind of their way of moving, a list of 20 courses to 5 of them that they're interested in, and then choosing 2 or 3 to actually register for. Most students don't need to do that. It's very clear what's in their schedule, what classes they'll be taking, and so they do need to click this register button. So we'll pretend that Wilt, our test student, was a good listener and realized that he needs to click register. So he'll click that button. And as soon as he does, the system will transfer us to his status page. So that's the page that we're on right now. This is his status page. And it basically shows him the status of his class, the status of his request. So you'll see that Art 1510 was added, right? That was the class that he said he was interested in. And it kind of shows you the next things that has to happen, right? So the high school has to approve the enrollment and the student has to accept the scholarship. So this student accept scholarship link, you'll see that it's bright yellow, meaning that the student has to do it, right? It's highlighted to bring his attention to that. The stuff below it is not bright yellow because that's not the student's responsibility. The high school has to do something. And you'll also notice that this scholarship step, it applies to all of the courses in this semester. So he picked a full year course. So if he picks another full year course, I'm not going to ask him about that scholarship again. He only has to answer that scholarship question 1 time for that semester. Now, if he adds a class in another semester, let's pretend he has a spring class, then that scholarship step is going to fire again. I need that question answered for every semester. It only happens once per semester, but it is for every semester. If the student wants another class, so they want to take art and let's say biology, it's as simple as them clicking on the courses tab, and it brings them right back to that big old course list. And then they simply repeat the process and they click on the next course that they want. So let's pretend that our student wanted to have this biology class, anatomy and phys. So I click on the title. It looks like there are a couple of sections, and you'll see that these are at the BOCES. Again, we show the students at particular high schools the classes that they are eligible for open for them. They're offered, right? So SUNY JCC will say Olean students should also be able to take classes that are held at this BOCES or that BOCES. So the student is able to log in. They said their high school was Olean, and they will see all of the classes that are open to them, the ones at Olean, the one at the specific BOCES that they're eligible for. So let's pretend that the student wants to take this one at the BOCES Olean location. There's a BOCES Belmont and a BOCES Olean. They are in the fall semester, so this is not a full year. This is a fall semester, and they're just going to go ahead and click register again for the particular one that they want. So if they would like BOCES Olean, we're going to go ahead and click on that particular register button. It'll bring the student back to their status page, and you'll see that we have added the biology class, and you'll be like, well, wait a minute, how come there are two scholarship steps? Again, that's because these are two different semesters. The first class was for a full year semester, which is like September to June or May, and then this one is truly a fall semester. So that's just September to like December, right? So because there are two different semesters, and you have to answer that scholarship question in each semester, that's why it's there twice, right? If they add another fall class or they add another full year class, that step won't fire again. It is bright yellow because it's trying to make sure the student realizes that you have work to do, and it is a hyperlink. So I will go ahead and click on that as the student. The student will see some verbiage here. I think we might actually be updating this. I think I saw an email from Jade to our developer, Mark, about maybe changing a little bit of the language here. So those might look slightly different, but essentially there's going to be a little blurb about the College Connection scholarship, and the student basically has to say yes or no as to whether or not they'd like to accept that. So I'm going to go ahead and answer yes for our student, and then I will do it the second time again because there were two different semesters for which the student is registering for classes. And then you'll see that the bright yellow goes away, right? So the only thing that's on our student status screen are kind of the two classes that they're interested in and the next steps that have to happen, right? So it looks like for the art class, we're waiting on the high school to approve it. On the biology class, we're waiting for a high school to provide a class rank, a high school to approve an enrollment, and for a parent consent. So the other thing that a student can do is they can resend the parent email. So Wilt gave us a parent's email address, and if I were to click that resend button, it would resend the email to that particular parent, and it says, all right, we sent another email to SethBozer@dualenrollme.com, which should be your dad. And if the parent's like, yeah, I still didn't get that, or maybe the student's like, uh-oh, I typed that wrong, or I just want to give you my mom's email address instead, there is a change link right here. So if the student clicks on change, they can either type in a brand new email address so they can correct it if it was typed incorrectly. They could give us their mom's email address if they gave us their dad's, or they can just change their mind entirely and say, you know what, email's not working. I want to do the whole scan a hard copy, like give me a hard copy and I'll scan it or attach it electronically. So the student does have the ability to do that. They can resend parent consent emails. They can change the email address. They can even change from scanned to email or email to scanned, you know, the method by which they would secure that parent consent. Now, you as the high school person will also have access to these links. So if Wilt comes into your office frantic and my mom didn't get the email, you could log on, you could find Wilt, you could click the resend button for him. I would encourage you to ask the student to do it themselves, to make sure that students are kind of taking some ownership and responsibility for registering and for kind of that process. But you as a high school staff member will certainly be able to have access to those resend and change buttons for parent consent as well. So I'm going to actually just like stop here for 1 second because that is really the gist of the student's part or the student piece. They basically have to make sure that they come to the correct website, which is sunyjcc.dualenroll.com. They either have to log in with their existing account from like last year or last semester, or they have to create a brand new account with us. If they do create a new account, they need to confirm or activate it, take care of those pre-registration screens, and then they simply pick their courses, right off of that courses tab. Once they pick the courses, they'll be brought to their status tab so they can see the ones that they've added and kind of what's going on with them. And then they might have those scholarship steps depending on the terms in which those classes meet. So they'll have to complete that scholarship acceptance step. And again, the status screen has live, real-time information. So for art, you'll see that the parent permission is still needed, the high school permission is still needed, the registration is pending. If in 5 minutes the mom or dad took care of the parent consent, then this would change to say parent permission complete, right? So it kind of gives them a running checklist of what is needed and where they are in that checklist and getting all of those things taken care of. So I'll stop right here and see if there are any questions about the student's part of the enrollment process. You can either enter them in the chat box, you can try audio. Jade, if there's anything that I left out that you would like to add, you can certainly jump on and add to that. Same thing, Lisa, but that is really the student's piece of the enrollment or registration process through the dualenroll.com system. So I will wait here for just a minute, see if there are any questions. I don't see anything coming into the chat box, but I'll keep an eye on it here in case somebody is furiously typing away. But if there are no questions on the student's piece, I'm going to go ahead and log out, and I am going to log in as the high school counselor. So one thing before I log out as Wilt is that you will see that that big red help desk button is still there. Told you it was ever present, and it really is. And we'll look at that towards the end of the training. So I'm going to log out as Wilt. I'm going to log in as the Olean High School counselor, since Olean High School is where Wilt is from. That's the high school he chose. Before I do that, I am going to bump over to my inbox again, and I just want to show you that there's been some activity. Let me refresh it. Going on. The system has been sending emails out as Wilt has been in there registering. So you'll see things like there's a parent email that was sent. Let me see if I can get it to pull up here. Yeah, here we go. So it says, "Dear parent or guardian, your child Wilt has signed up to take Art 1510 from Jamestown. Please click here to give your consent." So I will actually do that real quick. I'll go ahead and click that little link. And you'll notice that the parent doesn't have to have a login. So they're not having an account, they're not having a password, they don't have to create anything. They simply have to get the email and then click the link to get to that consent page. It automatically puts them on the consent page. So again, it'll show them the name of their student, it'll show them the class that they want, and then I accept the College Connection Scholarship on behalf of my daughter or son. They will go ahead and type in their name. That's the way that they electronically authorize or acknowledge that they are giving their consent. And then the parent also has the link to that big old, the big student college connections guide, all of the information about the program. So we'll pretend that Seth, the dad, got the email link just fine and is going to give his permission for that art class. He will have to do that again for the biology class, so he'll approve each one of the class selections of his student, but I'll just go ahead and just do the art one so we can leave the biology parent consent piece out there. But you'll see, like I said, that the system is sending a bunch of emails out. It even sends emails to the student, like it'll say, "Dear student, this is just to let you know that you have begun the process of registering." We send a parent one of those too. "Dear parent, your student has begun the process of registering for bio, and pretty soon we're going to contact you asking for permission," right? So there's a lot of communication that the system does to make sure that everybody is kind of in the loop with what's going on with that particular process or registration process. So I'm going to bounce back to our test site, and I'm going to log in as the counselor at Olean. You'll notice that the counselors or the high school staff, you don't create your accounts either. You're not going to do the click here to create one. That's just for students. You will be issued an account, right? So normally I am the one who will email you your login and your password or your temporary password, and you will just be able to log in straight away. So this is our Olean High School counselor. The first screen that the counselors will see or the high school staff will see is called the dashboard. You'll see that you have a few more tabs up here than the students do. You'll also see that you still have that big red help desk button. Because this is our test site, the dashboard doesn't look very interesting. And quite frankly, at first, yours won't look very interesting either. It really only starts to look interesting as you use the system semester after semester, year after year, because it kind of charts the data for you, like how many kids are registered in a fall class versus a full year class, right? So you have 9 of them that are applying for a fall class versus 10 of them that are applying for full year. It will even break down like which subjects are your best subjects. You know, you have 6 people in English and 27 people in math. So again, the dashboard is supposed to provide you with like snapshot data, live data, but it becomes more interesting as more data gets put in there, as more students are using the system. And we are actually going to be changing the dashboard a little bit. We've gotten some feedback from our high schools and from our colleges on what information would be more helpful. So like instead of showing me this, can you show me this instead? So you will see a few changes here and there with the dashboard, but that's the purpose or the point of the dashboard, and that's kind of your default when you log in. The tabs that you're going to spend the majority of your time on is going to be the Student tab and the Reports tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Students tab, and this will give you a default list of all of the students who chose you as their counselor that need your help or your attention, right? It'll show you what's going on with the students who chose you as their counselor. So you'll see that Wilt is right here, Wilt Bozer, there he is. And it does say Art 1510 2 times. That doesn't mean that Wilt is trying to register for it twice. What it's trying to show you is that there are 2 things that have to happen for this class. We're waiting on 2 things. The first one is pending application response. So that's actually nothing that you can click on, nothing that you have to do. It's a data exchange thing. It's when our system talks to SUNY JCC system, and we basically send the application over and get a like success, we have received it message. But anything that requires your attention, just like the student, would be bright yellow. We're trying to bring your attention to it. This is you, you're up, right? So you'll see there are a bunch of bright yellow steps for this counselor to take care of. You'll also see that there's a toolbar right here, so you can view a few different ways, use a few different filters. You can also search, so if all you want to see is Wilt, Wilt has just walked into your classroom or your office, or you're on the phone with Wilt's mom, you can just type in his first name, his last name, part of his name, and this is what's going on with Wilt, right? So we see that he's got an art class. There are 2 things that have to happen for that art class. And then he's got a bio class, and there's 4 things that have to happen for the bio class. You'll also notice that not all of the bio class steps are highlighted for you. So the only thing that you have to do for Wilt right now, that's your responsibility, is this first one. You have to approve his art class. You'll notice that it does say high school approved biology, but if you'll remember, these were at the BOCES location. And so you at the high school will be able to see that. You'll be able to see what your student is doing. You want to know that your student is trying to take a class at the BOCES, but that step isn't for you. It's not bright yellow. The BOCES person will have to log in and approve that choice, but you will be able to see what's going on with your student. So it's kind of nice because at all times you can tell what's going on with a particular student's registration. You can kind of see where they are in the process, how many things have to be completed before their registration will be complete. And like I said, it is live data. The ones that are complete, so any registration that is complete, meaning the student has gotten all of the permissions, everybody has said yes, everything is good to go, they are enrolled, they will also be on your list. They'll just be further down your list because they don't require your attention. So like you'll see Oscar, he already is complete for art. You'll see that Jack is complete for biology, health sciences, right? So if Jack called you and he's like, I don't know what's going on with my registration, you can again type in Jack's name and you can say, all right, it looks like you are enrolled in ceramics, health science, and accounting. All of them are listed as complete. There's nothing else for you to do. There's nothing else for anybody to do. You're in, right? So you can always see what's going on with your students. It's just anything that requires your attention will be near the top of the list and will be in that bright highlighter yellow. There's also that View All DE link right here. So again, if we did have 2 counselors, Counselor Jade and Counselor Raquel, and a student, chose Counselor Jade, but Counselor Raquel has to cover because Jade's sick, all she'd have to do is click on this View All DE Students, and I would see all of the kids at Olean. Every single kid who attends Olean High School, I would see all their stuff. So that is certainly there and available to all the high school staff. The only other things to kind of bring to your attention, because I encourage you to come in here and play around, right? Change the filters, see which view you like the best, is you'll probably want to stay on all active terms. That's an option for the term. You could certainly pick just show me the fall classes or just show me the full year classes. But when you have 2 semesters being registered for at once, like students can pick fall classes or full year classes right now, what you really want to see is all the active terms. So what are the classes that kids are picking right now, even if it is in 2 different terms? So that would show you both full year and fall, right? So all active terms is a good one to look at. There is all terms, which is very helpful if you're trying to look back in time, like show me all the things that Jack has ever done ever last year and this year. You could look for all terms, type in Jack's name, and it would pull up everything he's done over time. But all active terms is probably where you'll spend the majority of your time. And then view by student is again the default view, and it basically shows you the students one at a time, right? So Wilt wants this, and Seth wants that, and Oscar wants these. And you can certainly complete these steps individually. So if I wanted to just work on Wilt's class, I can go ahead and click on this hyperlink that's bright yellow, and it's going to ask me a question just about Wilt. So it says, Wilt wants to take an art class. Do you say yes, no, or decide later? So yes would move them forward in the registration process. No would stop them, say no, you cannot register for the class. And then decide later would just keep them on your list in that bright yellow color because you haven't made a decision yet. You're going to have to come back to that one. So you can absolutely answer these questions one at a time, like click on each one of these links. But we also offer an option for you to batch process, so to kind of do them in a batch, right? Multiple ones at a time. To do that, you simply change the view from view by student to view by step. So I'm going to change that to view by step. The same information is going to be there. It just sorts it, shuffles it in a different way. So what it says is you have 11 registrations that need your approval, and here they all are, right? This is the class rank step. We'll talk about that in just a second. And again, I can still see the ones that are complete. Like if I go to my last page, you'll still see the students that are done, that are complete. So here are the ones that, Jack was complete in ceramics and John was complete in accounting, etc. So all the information is still there. It just simply resorts it. And what's really cool about batch processing is if I still click on this bright yellow link that says this is mine, now I get a table. So I'm not just looking at Wilt. I'm looking at Wilt and the 3 classes that Seth wants because he wants art, bio, and business. And I can just go right down the list. Yes, no, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes, and just get a bunch of them done at once, right? So that's what batch processing allows you to do. It allows you to kind of answer that approval question just in a larger quantity instead of one at a time. And that can be very helpful and efficient when you're trying to move things along. For the sake of the demo, I'm going to go ahead and really just do these one at a time. So I will only handle Wilt, so I can leave the rest of them, and then they're for like test data for when we do more training sessions. So if I wanted to approve Wilt, I'll go ahead and say yes, that I approve his choice for art. I think that's a good fit for him. It's on his schedule, looks great. So I click yes, and I click complete step. And now if I was to pull up Wilt, you'll see that I don't have anything else to do for him, right? Both these people are going to have to do stuff for his biology class, and his art class is now on college review form. So that means SUNY JCC's got to take a look at all of the stuff that we collected. For his biology class, it looks like BOCES has to do some stuff and the parent has to do something. I did not do the parent permission for biology. I only did the parent permission for the art class. So you can see that that's still a step that is outstanding for Wilt's bio class. You'll also see that you as a counselor have access to that resend and that change link. So if a registration needs the parent consent, you will still have access to that resend and change link, just like the students do. For every single student, for every single registration, you at the high school will have to at least approve the enrollment. So, Seth wants an art class too, and it says you've got to approve his enrollment. For some of the students, you will have to provide the class rank. And so you'll see that this one says high school provide class rank. And that particular step only fires if a certain class was picked, right? So not all classes require that. Clearly an art class does not. The only thing you needed to do for art was to give your approval. But if you chose, let's say, a business class or a biology class or astrophysics, they might also, and by they I mean SUNY JCC, might also ask you to provide the class rank for that particular course. I'm actually going to log out as the counselor and log in as the BOCES person, simply because Wilt, he's taking a class at BOCES. And I want to show you that that BOCES person also has, they have a counselor view, essentially. So I'll go over to students, and there's Wilt, and you'll see that their students, their particular tasks are bright yellow because they have to do something. So let's take a peek at that class rank step so I can show you what it looks like. So when you click on that step, the high school provide class rank, and this would be the same thing for you at the high school. I'm just looking at it from the BOCES perspective simply because of what our test student chose to take. This is what the class rank step looks like. So you have Wilt's name down here, you have the class, and then you basically have to make one of these selections, right? So are they in the top 10% of the class? Do they meet the minimum requirements without a reading or writing waiver, or do they meet the minimum requirements with these test scores, right? Or are they just not eligible, right? And then there is a decide later. So this is what the class rank step would look like. Again, it only fires every once in a while when a student chooses a class that requires that. It's not for every class, it's specific classes that require this particular step to be completed. Additionally, of these options, and I do think we're maybe changing the language a little bit on here too, but of these options, if you choose this one, this kind of middle one, right smack dab in the middle, where it's talking about AccuPlace or test scores, it will fire off one more step that says upload a transcript or test scores for this particular student. And again, that one only fires if you got the class rank and you chose this selection. If you chose top 10%, then I'm not going to ask you for a transcript or test scores. If you chose this one, I'm not going to ask you for transcript or test scores. It's really only if you choose this middle one, if this is the one that applies to the student's particular situation. So I say that to say that the high school person could have up to 3 things that they have to do for a student. They are definitely going to have to approve the enrollment. That's always true. Depending on the class, they might also have to do this one, provide the class rank. And depending on their answer right here, they might also have to do a third one, the transcript or test scores. But as you can see, that transcript or test score step, you know, there's so many ifs that have to happen. If they choose the class, if you make the specific answer, then you'll have a transcript step. But it really doesn't happen that often, so I don't want to give you the impression that you'll be uploading billions of transcripts or test scores throughout that process, but that it could happen depending on the particular class and your answer to the specific rank step. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this for our particular student or test student. And so because I did choose that middle one, that, you know, the one that fires off the transcript, here it is, high school upload transcript or test scores. But you'll see that's the only one, right? And again, it's because Wilt chose a very specific class that had the high school rank piece, and I chose a very specific answer for him, right? That's the specific answer that applied. So I do have to upload a transcript or test score for him. Again, if I click on that, well, here's our test site. It was a matter of time before I get that little message. Sorry about that. You will be able to upload a transcript or a test score for him. It just basically has a browse button where you can browse a computer for the file and attach that file to the student's account. Let me see if I can get it on the counselor side without that little error message. They pop up every once in a while on our test site, so. But that's really it for the high school part. Even the BOCES part is that they're going to go ahead and log in. They're going to click on their students list, and they will complete the bright yellow steps that are assigned to them. At a minimum, it will always be the school enrollment, approve the enrollment, the class selection of your student. And then worst case scenario, you might have 3 things to do. You might have to do the high school rank as well as the transcript step. So are there any questions about those tasks for the high school? Here we go. I got it to work on the Olean High School site, not the BOCES person. So this is what the transcript screen would look like, right? So I basically clicked that where is it? Here we go, high school upload transcripts and test scores. And then you'll see here's where you can add, and it basically just lets you browse your computer for the file. So transcripts, and I could attach that for that student. So yeah, so those are the 3 tasks, up to 3 tasks that a high school approver might have, approving the enrollment, the provide the class rank, and then the transcript, possibly test scores. The only other piece of the interface that the high school staff typically uses is the report tab. So if I were to click on this report tab, again, I encourage you to play around, but you would go ahead and click on the box here to select the semester that you want information for. So full year, fall semester, you can select more than one. You just have to keep clicking in the box. So you pick the first one and then pick your second one and then pick your third one if you want. You can X out of the ones that you don't want. And then we have a list of reports for you to choose from. They all are run in Excel. They will create an Excel report. So I'm going to do the registrations with status report, which basically shows me all of the registrations and their status. So this kid needs parent permission, and that kid needs the high school transcript, and this kid needs this. And it's basically, like I said, it's a report that shows you the status of all of the registrations in your system. So you choose the report, you choose the semesters, you click generate, and it'll show you a little progress bar while it is generating. And once it's done generating, the button turns into a download button. And it can take a little bit to generate, especially if you have a ton of students in there. Eventually, it'll be a download button, and your system will download however your computer downloads. So mine has a pop-up window that says, do you want to save it or open it? So I'll just go with open. And it'll pop up here in an Excel list. And so these are all of the registrations on our test site right now for Olean. You'll see that they all are in Olean High School. I can sort, right? I have the student's email address. I have the class that they want. So if I wanted to sort by course, I can. And you'll see how many of them are choosing Art 1510 versus business. And then if you go over a little further, here is the current workflow step. Like, what step are they on? What needs to be finished for this kid? And so this is where you can see, and again, you could sort by this. You could see all of the kids that are waiting for parent consent, all of the kids who are complete, right? So I would encourage you to hang out over here on the reports tab, play around, and see which reports might be helpful. Again, it is live data. So if you run the report at 10 o'clock in the morning, and Seth's registration is not complete yet, and then you run it at 5 o'clock in the evening, and now his registration is complete. Everything got taken care of in the course of that day for Seth, or for Wilt, or whoever it is that you're looking at. So those are kind of the 2 tabs that a high school staff person will spend most of their time on, Students tab and Reports tab. Again, the best way is to get in there and kind of play around with the various filters and search bars and the various reports that we have available. So I will stop here and see again if there are questions or if Jade has anything to add, anything that I missed about the high school's interface.
No, I think you covered it, Raquel. Right now, though, I don't see the reports tab on your screen that you're sharing. I'm just seeing the students tab. Did you go to that?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, let me do that. Let me do that one more time. Is that better? I think I had my screen on pause. Can you see the reports tab now, Jade?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. So let me do that one more time then, since I was kind of doing it without you guys seeing it. So here's the reports tab. You click in this box right here to select your terms. So I can say full year, click in the box again to add fall, click in the box again to add spring. Whoops, I don't want spring, so click an X. And then here are the report options, right? And I chose, come on, registrations with status report. So that's all of my registrations and their status. I can also just choose the completed ones, like just show me the kids that are complete, the ones I don't have to worry about, they're in, right? But I chose registrations with status. There's a generate button down here, and there's the little progress bar. And as soon as it's done, it'll turn into a download. And I click download, and then again, however your system downloads, I'm gonna go ahead and click open, and it will pop open in Excel. And so here's how I can sort, right? So here's their last names, here's their first name, here's the course. So I could sort by course and kind of see how many kids do I have in business versus biology. If I scroll a little bit over, here's where you can see the current step that they're on. You know, so this kid needs parent consent. This one is complete. And again, you can sort by this to kind of see which buckets kids are in, which steps are outstanding. So yep, thank you for that. Sorry about that. So this is the reports tab and kind of how you can manipulate it.
Yeah, and this too is also good for tracking. And I'm sorry that I wasn't through the whole part of when you were talking about like the scholarship step there, and how that's a little bit new. And I know in some of the emails we've spoken about that being a new step, but this is also a way too that we at the college and you at the high school too can check and see if a student didn't check to apply for the scholarship or a parent didn't accept the scholarship. You can see in that status report, I believe, that whether what they selected. And so if somebody said, whoops, I think I hit no, you could go in there, check and see and be like, oh, you did hit no. We could go back and send that step back to them.
Yep.
So we could change that.
And so if they haven't completed it, it'll show up here, meaning that step is still outstanding. You need to do that. You need to complete the scholarship step, because this is the workflow steps that they need to do, right? If you want to know their answer, you scroll over. So this report is huge. I always call it the monster report. It has basically every piece of information the student gave us, you know, their phone number, their birth date, their address. And so yes, it will have, and I don't know what column it is because this guy is big, but it will have their answer to, like, are they a US citizen, yes or no? It will have their answer to that scholarship question. And so yes, you are able to see that on the report.
Yeah, so that's great as far as tracking, to be able to see, like you said, if they didn't complete the step and they're going, why am I not registered for this? You can go in as a counselor and see, oh, well, it's because you never completed that step. We on the college side won't get to see everything and we can't approve it until they've completed all the steps that they need to complete. So if you're wondering, you know, where's the holdup, this is a great way to be able to check in and see.
Yep. Definitely. So those are kind of the high school pieces. Like I said, you'll spend a lot of time on the students tab and then a lot of time on the reports tab, I would imagine. And you'll also notice that you have that red help desk button as well. So if there aren't any questions about that, I'm going to log out. And I'm actually going to click on that help desk button just so you can kind of see what that looks like. So if I click on this help desk button, and again, I could be a student, I could be a parent, I could be a high school person, you'll come to our help desk. We actually use a platform called Zendesk. And these right here are where we keep like our frequently asked questions, like how do you change the parent's email address, or how do I do this, right? So if I were to say, oh, I am a student, here are some of the like frequently asked questions that we've already typed up a response to, like how do I change my parent's email address? You'll see there's a PDF that somebody could download, and it basically has screenshots. Like go to your profile page, look at the bottom. This is where your parent email address is and how you can change it. But if, you know, the student or the high school person or the parent just doesn't have time to be reading articles, I just want some help. Help me. There is a little submit a request link way up here at the top. And I really wish that guy was bigger. Unfortunately, he is not bigger. But it's way up here at the top. It says submit a request. And it basically pops up a form that you fill out to create a ticket, a help desk ticket. And again, anything with a red asterisk is required. There's only 3 things, like what's your email address so we can write you back and tell you how to fix the problem. And then what's the problem? Usually like a short title, like can't log in. And then a description, you know, I attend Olean High School and I'm locked out of my account. I tried the reset thing and it didn't work. Please help me. And those are the 3 things that we actually need. Just tell me how to get in touch with you and what's the issue. And that's at a minimum what we need to help you. If you can give us more information, like what's your student's name, what's the teacher's name, what's the high school's name, which college are you working with? Because again, dualenroll.com works with many, many colleges, SUNY JCC included. The more information, the better. You do have a way to attach a file. So if you took a screenshot of a really wonky screen that you're seeing, you could attach that to your ticket. But at the bare minimum, who are you? Like, give me an email address, and then what is the problem? And then you just click submit, and that issues a help desk ticket to myself and the rest of our staff over here that does a lot of support work. We usually turn around and answer within 24 hours. within a business day, quite essentially. One business day, and we'll have an answer to you. If we can't fix the problem, we send you a little note that says we're still working on it. We haven't forgotten about you. And again, these responses come from support@dualenroll.com. So make sure you check your junk or your spam folder at first to get those responses from us through the help desk. But that is a way to enter help desk ticket. Most of you high school folks will have my name, my phone number, and my email address because I am the one who emails you your login credentials. And you are absolutely 100% welcome to email me or call me directly. I am happy to help you. That's kind of my job, is to make sure that this process goes as smoothly as possible for both you and your students. But there is only one of me, so if you email me, I might not get back to you until the end of the day or the next day. If you enter a help desk ticket, there's like 3 of me that are working on the help desk at all times. And so you might get a faster response that way. It just kind of depends. But I am certainly here to help, and I would welcome any direct contact. You don't have to go to a help desk to get in touch with me.
Yeah, and also too, always feel free if you're in the middle of registration too, to contact JCC as well, either myself or Lynn. We can help you through some issues too. In fact, that's just what I was doing earlier when you were doing this training, is we had another school that was looking, and they had students who had registered last year and they couldn't remember what their student user IDs were. So Lynn and I were just going in and finding their student IDs for them based on their student names. So some little things like that too. Always feel free to come in and check with us. And if we can't help you, then we can get in touch with Dual Enroll too. But sometimes there's something that we can just do for you immediately too if we're in the office.
Yep. You've got a whole team of people behind you, ready and willing to help.
And I will say too that, you know, up to this point, we've had 14 schools that have already been registering with Dual Enroll now as of last spring. We've been phasing this in, and it's gone very smoothly. I mean, we piloted this out with Dunkirk High School, and, you know, that was an opportunity for us to see what were, you know, any of the issues or things that we may encounter that were causing hiccups. But to this point, we've really been able to address most of those problems that people have encountered, and things have been running pretty smoothly. You know, as smooth as you can imagine too. Also, we've compiled some of these best practices based on those lessons learned that we've had. And so we emailed those to you, but actually I can share my screen too. And
yeah, I can. Let me make you the presenter real quick, Jade. Hang on.
Sure.
Okay, you should get a little message that says, do you want to be the presenter?
Yes, okay. So if you can you see my screen now with the best practices? Okay, perfect. So we did email these to everybody too, but just some of the things that we found that were useful was to, you know, send a letter to your parents and guardians, letting them know that we've got this online process if this is the first time that they're doing it. And so that they know too that they might get an email. If they don't have an email address to approve that student registration, like Raquel said, that's fine. You can do it with paper, and we've sent out that paper form as well too. So you can just have them sign that and bring that back in, and you can either, you know, upload those, send them into us. We also, you know, some of these things are, you know, as far as the organization that you've done already, having a spreadsheet is great to be able to just kind of get everything in place and help you with your approvals for students when you have to go through and approve their registrations too. So that can really help with making things smoother. If you don't have a system for that right now too, we have a template for a spreadsheet that may be helpful for you to use. It's also a good idea too that you let the students know what classes that they are going to register for, because sometimes if you're calling it something different within the high school than what the course title is, that may cause confusion. So, you know, a lot of times we've had counselors that just take that spreadsheet itself, have a list of those classes that the student is taking, and then just cut it up into strips, and each student, you know, takes that strip that has their name on it and it lists the classes that they're supposed to register for. But we've seen different schools approach this in different ways. So there's a lot of different things. And so if you're coming up on any roadblocks or aren't sure exactly how to approach this, please contact us, because we may have some ideas, you know, of what other schools have done too. It's a really good idea too, to test dual enroll before you actually go in and start registering students, just to make sure that there's no blocks or firewalls that you have preventing the program. Usually you can contact somebody from your IT department and get around that. Same with student email accounts as well. Like if they have a Gmail or a Yahoo account, some schools may have a firewall blocking them from being able to do that. Most schools have been able to ask their IT department to allow them, for that day when they're doing registration, or allow the cell phones. The cell phone's really the easiest way to do it, and allowing those students to get that text message. On the college side of things too, we won't approve a registration until we have that COR form in hand. So that's a great first step to be working on before you even have those students go in and register. Is some of the schools have just said, okay, here's the COR form. We're going to, either have you stop into the office and have it notarized, or we're going to have the notary here the day that we do registration. But you need to hand in that COR form now at registration time. So then that way they're not chasing down students. Again, whatever works best for you. But until we get those COR forms, we can't push through the enrollments through into our banner student system and actually have them registered into JCC. So that's a really important step. We also developed a new fillable PDF COR form. So if your students have their own personal devices, like a laptop or an iPad, they can start filling it out on that device. And we include some handy drop downs on there where students were frequently getting tripped up. So a lot of times students would read county very quickly and think it said country. And so they would put USA instead of, Chautauqua or Cattaraugus or Allegheny. So that, kind of helps prompt them. Also township, we did a drop down to make it a little bit easier for them to select what they should be putting there. Also, some of the things too, when you are registering students, like I said, I had a school who was registering this morning and they were having an issue with coming up with what the student user IDs were. So I was able to help them because they had done a, one of our best practices that we came up with was to have a uniform user ID for your students, but that would still be unique. So for instance, at Dunkirk High School, they were using DK and then the first name or first initial and last name. So Jane's student at Dunkirk High School was DKJ student. This school was using the student's initials and their student ID number. So whatever would be unique for them, because it does have to be a unique user ID. And then we suggested using something that would be a unique password so nobody else could get into a student's account, because there is a lot of personal information like their social security numbers, their J numbers in there. We don't want other people to be able to access that. However, if you can give them a prompt, if in spring they're going, I don't remember what my password is, something that might be unique, like, the name of the street and the day of the month that they were born, or their grandmother's first name and their house number, or maybe the last 4 digits of their phone number and their father's middle name, whatever you want to come up with, that's fine. But just something that would be unique to them that you could maybe give them a prompt with is helpful. Also, try to have the students move at the same pace if you're doing a large group registration at once. That way, it's easier usually for you to be able to walk them through, avoid errors, that type of thing. And so, I mean, are there any questions that anybody has based on what we've been doing to this point? All right. So we did send these documents out. Lisa Cooper sent those out last Friday, so you should have gotten them. If you didn't, email Lisa or myself and we can forward those on to you as well. Also included in this was documents that we had come up with too to help out. Let me pull it up here. This was some sample letters that we had, and also instructions for registration too. So let me pull those up that we tried to do like step by step for a new student. So here you go. What would be step one to open up the website. Make sure you go to HTTPS, because it has to be a secure connection. Dual enroll, cujcc.dualenroll.com. How to create a new student account, how to choose your classes, the scholarship piece. And then we also created one for returning students as well. So you can give this to students next semester if they've already registered for classes, and this can be helpful too. So if anybody has any questions too, again, happy to answer them now, or feel free to email or contact us too.
Thank you, Jade. Lots of good information. And I haven't seen any questions come in through the through the chat box. So I think we might have answered them all. And certainly we have the videotaped recording that I will stop here in just a second. But that's really it. If there are no other further questions, I will go ahead and let you guys get to the rest of your day. I know it's a busy time of the school year, and we certainly appreciate you spending some time with us this morning. Again, Jade and her team and myself are here to assist any way we can. So even though it makes perfect sense today, if you log into the system in 4 days and you're like, whoa, what was I supposed to do? Please feel free to tag one of us. We're happy to help kind of refresh your memory on how to use the system or how to move a registration through that process.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for help.
Yes, thank you. You guys have a great rest of the day. I'll go ahead and